Hi everyone, welcome back to the EchoWood. In this video I'm going to show you exactly how I made this donut scene using my free EchoWood Essentials brush set, which you can download in the description below. If you're new here, my name is Logan and I create bite-sized Procreate tutorials and offer tips and tricks for building skill and improving workflow. Please be sure to subscribe to my channel and give this video a thumbs up. You can grab my color palette for this tutorial on my Patreon. You just have to join as a free member. Starting off, we're going to do a 3000 by 3000 pixel artboard. Fill the background layer with the first color in the donut palette. Create a new layer and choose the second color in the color palette. And then for the brush, you're going to choose Gumdrop. And using that pink color, we're just going to draw a simple wave shape and fill it in with that pink color. Choose the second to the last gold color in the palette and we're going to do a second wave shape. And finally, choose the orange color in the palette and do a wave shape on the bottom. I went in with my selection tool and adjusted it so it was a little bit more centered vertically. While still on your selection tool, let's turn on snapping and magnetics. Create a new layer and choose white either from the color palette or double tap in the upper left section of the color wheel. Still using Gumdrop, draw a circle, hold it, let it snap into place, and then put a finger on the screen and it'll turn into a perfect circle instead of an oval. Fill it with white and use the snapping and magnetics to center the plate on the middle of the screen. Next, let's duplicate this layer by sliding it to the left, and then we're going to fill it with the last color in the color palette. You might have to turn your snapping setting off so it resizes a little bit better, and you're just going to make it slightly smaller than the white circle that is below it. Go to Adjustments, choose Gaussian Blur, and blur it out about 5%. Make a new layer, and we're going to choose white again, and let's make a circle. And you're going to draw it, hold until it snaps, and then touch a finger to the screen so it moves to a perfect circle. Center the circle and then go to Adjustments, Gaussian Blur, and do about 15%. Create a new layer, change the brush to EchoWood, going to keep the color as white, and we're going to draw in some highlights. Following the outer edge of the plate, you are going to create this arc shape and you're going to let it snap into place, and then you choose that edit at the top of the screen and you can actually change all of the little anchor points. Once you've created about 3 of these, then you're going to go to Gaussian Blur under Adjustments again and adjust it to about 5%. Taking the lower plate layer that is white, we are going to duplicate that layer again and then choose the bottommost layer. Using the selection tool, pull the layer that you just created down and to the right slightly. Next, fill the layer with black and change the blending mode to multiply and reduce the opacity to 21%. To keep things a little bit organized, select all of these plate layers by dragging them to the right and grouping them, and we're just going to call this layer plate. Create a new layer. This is going to be our donut layer, and you're going to choose the orange color and EchoWood for the brush. Draw a circle, let it snap into place, touch a finger to the screen so it's a perfect circle, and then edit the circle and center it on your plate, and then you're going to draw another circle within that circle, and that's going to be the center of the donut hole. You can move that center circle around a bit if you need to, and then fill the donut with the orange color. Next, click on the eraser tool and change the eraser to Echo Wood. Using that eraser tool, we are going to just outline an area that is going to become our bite mark. It doesn't need to be perfect, I'm just trying to make sure that it has a jagged edge. Next, go along the outer edge of the donut so it's not such a perfectly round shape. You'll do the same with the inner section of the donut. Next, let's duplicate this donut layer and choose the bottommost layer, and you're going to do the same as what you did with the drop shadow on the plate. You're going to take the selection tool and drag the donut kind of down and to the right. Blending mode to multiply, opacity is 20%. Next, we'll add a new layer and clip it in. In the first row, choose the second to last color, that gold color. Still with Echo Wood, you're just going to add a little bit more definition to this bite mark area. Still on the same layer, you're going to choose the darker gold color that's all the way to the right on the first row, and you're just going to add in a little bit more of an accent color. Next, we'll create a new layer, clip it in, and we'll choose the medium pink color. It is the fourth color in the first row. We are roughly following the shape of the donut with this pink and just leaving some of the orange donut underneath. And we'll fill that part in. On this layer, we're going to choose Alpha Lock and then choose that dark pink color. It's the third in the first row. And then we'll change the brush to Puff and we'll reduce the size of the brush and the opacity down a little bit. Then using Puff, gently trace around the center so it's really smudged out. And I ended up switching my brush size to max. And you're going to apply the same thing to the edges of the donut. Using the lighter pink swatch, it is the second color in the first row, you're going to make that middle section a little bit more vibrant. New layer, choose Clipping Mask, and change your brush to Echo Wood. Keep the same lighter pink color, it is the second color in the first row. I had to adjust the sizing of the brush, but all you're going to do is create some angled squiggles, and this is going to serve as the frosting or the icing. Once you get to the bite out area, I angle it downward. New layer, clip it in, choose white for your color, and reduce the brush size a bit. Just following the same lines for the icing and adding a bit of detail. Keep the blending mode as normal and reduce the opacity to about 48%. Duplicate the light pink frosting layer. Taking the selection tool, again, you're going to drag the layer downward. The color is going to be that dark pink color. It is the third in the first row. I'm going to replay this section a few times because I think it can be a little confusing. When you drag the color, if it's only changing one part of the icing like mine did here, when you drag the color, instead of releasing it right away, you're going to hold it on your screen until that threshold pops up at the top of the screen, and then taking your pencil, drag it to the right until the color fills the rest of the icing. Taking the selection tool again, I'm just going to change it so the shadow layer is a little closer to the icing. Change the blending mode to multiply, or I see that I did darken instead, and then change the opacity to about 31%. And we'll just pause for a second, and here is what your art should look like so far. Let's make a new layer, and next we're going to start creating the sprinkles. So you're going to change your brush to Gumdrop, and we're going to choose the blue color in the color palette. All we're doing is drawing straight lines at various angles at different lengths. I want the sprinkles to look like they've also fallen off of the donut, onto the plate, onto the table, anywhere that makes sense. Next, we'll do the same with the green color. Then we'll choose this yellow color. The last color we will do with the sprinkles is orange. After zooming out, I felt like I had gone a little too overboard with the sprinkles, and so I took a few sprinkles out by switching to the eraser tool, and I changed my brush on the eraser to Bliss. Next, we're going to create the shadow layer for the sprinkles. We'll start by duplicating this layer, and then I'm going to show you an alternative to the drag and drop method of changing all of the colors to one color. We'll add a new layer and fill that entire layer with the dark pink color, and then we're going to clip that into the sprinkles layer, and then choose merge down, and now all of the sprinkles will be that dark pink color. With your selection tool, you're going to move that layer around so it's placed as more of a drop shadow. Change the blending mode to multiply and reduce the opacity to 45%. Next, let's create a new layer at the very top, and we're going to change our color to white. Brush is going to be Echo Wood, and we're just going to draw little highlights on each of the sprinkles. I am clipping this new highlight layer into the layer below it. Going through one by one, I add a slight highlight to each sprinkle. It really doesn't take that long to add the highlights individually. It really only took me a few minutes. When you've finished adding your highlights, keep your blending mode as normal and just reduce the opacity to about 85%. And our final step on this donut is we're going to add a new layer keep the white and the brush as echo wood, and we are going to just draw this kind of wavy shape here, and then we'll go to Gaussian blur and blur it out. Then select all of the layers that you just created by swiping them to the right, and we are going to group it and name this group Donut. Next, create a new layer above the donut group, and we're going to use the blue color in the color palette and use Gumdrop for the brush. Draw an oval shape, let it snap into place, and then hold a finger to the screen so it snaps to a perfect circle. Duplicate the circle layer and fill it with the darker tan color. It is the second swatch in the second row, and then you're going to take your selection tool and resize it so it is centered within the circle. Select both circles and move it to the upper left-hand corner. And then I made it just slightly bigger. And then back to the blue layer, I'm going to take the blue color and use my brush to just draw an oval for the handle and let that snap into place. And then you can edit the ellipse so it is placed a little bit better. Fill in that handle with the same blue color. Duplicate the blue mug layer and fill it with the light pink color. Change the blending mode to multiply and reduce that to about 50%, and then make sure that that layer, that you drag that down a bit. Add a new layer on top of that tan circle layer. Clip it in and then choose black for the color and echo wood for the brush. Then draw an arc with your brush and edit it so it's evenly spaced, and then you are going to change the blending mode to multiply and reduce the opacity to about 10%. New layer, and we're going to choose white for the color. Then I'm just going to draw a simple leaf pattern that you see a lot of times in like coffee art. Then I took the selection tool and just made it slightly smaller. I think it was looking a little too big, and then go to adjustments and liquefy and copy my settings at the bottom and make sure you're on push. And I just take that straight through the center of the leaf pattern. Keeping the blending mode as normal, then reduce the opacity down to about 60%. Then group all of your layers and label them as mug. Next, create a new layer, and this is going to be our napkin, and you're going to switch your brush to Gumdrop, and we're just going to draw a rectangle. Once that's done, fill it with white. And then I took my selection tool to rotate it, and I had to turn off the magnetics in order to let this rotate a little smoother. Then change the setting on the bottom to distort, and that helps you move the proportions around a little bit better. Next, move this layer underneath the plate layer. Next, make a new layer. Let's choose this pink color and choose Swept Away for the brush. Next, you'll make a really simple plaid pattern by drawing some horizontal stripes and vertical stripes. I reduced the opacity a bit and then went in with some more horizontal stripes. Then clip that layer into the napkin layer. Then you're also going to merge it down. Then go back to adjustments and liquefy and increase the size a little bit, and we're going to go over the napkin with this to make kind of the crinkles in the napkin. Next, duplicate this napkin layer. Then to create that solid shadow layer, I'm going to add a new layer and take that medium pink, the fourth in on the first row, and fill that entire layer. And then we're going to clip it in and merge it down so it's solid pink. Then take your selection tool, drop the shadow layer down, change the blending mode to multiply, reduce the opacity to 60%. Group your layers. I called this group napkin. And as always, add a new layer, switch the brush to Echo Wood, and sign your name because you're an artist. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, please drop them in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe. If you enjoyed this video, you should check out some of my other tutorials. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next one.